Welcome to Megapath Presents. I'm Ronnie Hayes, and today in the review room we're going to take a look at this Negan and Glenn 2-pack from Skybound and McFarlane Toys, and it premiered this year at San Diego Comic-Con. Now, for all the people asking about when this is going to come up for sale on their online shop again, and when they're going to put the bat, the full-size Lucille bat, or the comic books with the Negan kill variants, or the keychains, or anything else they premiered at San Diego Comic-Con this year, I don't have any information for you. I'm going to try to get in touch with Skybound and ask for definite. It's claimed, because again, I didn't ask them directly. I will soon though, but they're not going to be selling the Negan variant covers, which is a little disappointing if true. And also, they might not be restocking these figures or the Lucille bat. And if they do, it might not get restocked until maybe New York Comic-Con later this year, or, you know, a week from now, a month from now. So it's really up in the air. So at this time, I'm just going to say a huge apology. I thought they would put the bat up for sale at their online shop by now, and it doesn't look good, I'll be honest with you. So it's up to you at this point if you want to go online on eBay and buy it from a reseller. If you want to know what I'm going to do, I'm not doing that. I will just wait. If Skybound sells this stuff online, I'll pick it up and review it for you guys. If they don't, then unfortunately I will not be reviewing it for you guys. All apologies on that. Please let me know down in the comment box if you guys have any luck with eBay, or maybe when Skybound, if they do put it on their online shop, let us know. With that said, let's get right into this 2-pack with Negan and Glenn. The Kill 2-pack, pretty damn cool. If you need a little history on this 2-pack, the original release was a single-carded Negan with an iron, which is the only different accessory that comes in the single-carded Negan. Meaning, there's no Glenn, no Glenn's head, but as far as the Negan and his accessories, that is the only difference, plus the black and white version had blood splatter. The black and white version of the 2-pack does not have blood splatter. It's actually clean, and the Glenn head in there has a really cool, nice white eyeball. I do like that. Now, with the 2-pack color version, it has blood on Negan, and the color version of Negan that came out in the single card was an actual clean version of Negan. Really awesome. I was going to say I have an open clean one to show you, but I don't. But anyway, so that's the difference. No iron in the 2-pack, and the single carded was clean color and bloody black and white, whereas the 2-pack is bloody color and clean black and white. Let's start this off with taking a close look at Glenn. I actually really like this style Glenn. There is a little ugliness, though, I want to mention from the gate, so that way you don't notice it and wonder when I'm going to talk about it. That is his neck. This is a similar bulge that we saw with the 7-inch Rick Grimes. I have no clue why that's there, and yes, it is hideous, and you can't really pose him in different ways because of that neck sore right there. Well, it's an eyesore on the neck, I should say. With that said, his sculpt and paint is fantastic. He's got some blood on his baseball cap, some blood on his face. He has great detail on his clothing, which might seem plain at first, but actually looks pretty cool because it's ripped right out of the comic around the No Way Out / Alexandria storyline. It's not his death clothing, however, it's still pretty damn awesome that they were able to compact so much in this re-release. Because this Glenn is a Series 5 comic book release that's coming out in about a month or two, and Negan was previously released a couple years ago. So they're definitely making do with the mold here and the packaging for the fans, including that smashed head, which, again, we do not know if that's going to be in the single-carded release. It's hinted that it will be, but it doesn't make sense because the box for this 2-pack claims it's a exclusive. Anyway, some really nice detail on the back of the jacket. I love the folds they put in the clothing at McFarlane Toys, especially on his pant legs down here. That looks fantastic. Now with the articulation, you do get like an ugly little part of the pants that sticks out, especially here in this one, if you can see that. But you know, to be honest, when you put them together and have them standing up, it just looks so fantastic that I'm fine with that. It's easy to overlook. Now with the articulation, his feet right out of the box, they will be very stiff for you. So look at it, just play with them a little and they'll loosen right up for you. So the feet does have articulation. There is a bend at the knee. You can also swivel the knee. You get a little ugliness like I said before, but to be honest, I'm not counting that as a flaw because of how nice these pants look when you set him up, the folds there. And he does have the Jean-Claude Van Damme articulation here. Now you can go forward if you need to. You can go back if you need to that much. However, there is no upper thigh swivel because of that articulation. So you lose something, but you gain something. His waist does spin slightly, and his jacket is pliable, so you can pull it apart if you need to. With his arms, they do come up a little bit here. It is slightly hindered because of the jacket and the articulation, but they make up for that in the wrists and the elbows, I feel. His arm spins all the way around. He has really nice range of motion on the elbow, which is important. He does bend it way too far backwards, but the articulation is there. You can manipulate him in order to hold the axe in a cool way. But some of the best articulation is actually in his wrist. He has a ton of movement in this wrist, which is perfect to hold that axe. And yes, it does swivel. Now with his head, that's where the articulation gets a little messy because he does look up that much, down that much, and he does side to side. That's all fine, but again, it's the look of it with that ugliness right there. Even at a looking up, he still has that like double chin. Looking over, it's still like a bubble. There's a growth there. So that's a little disappointing. Let's pop that old head off. Before we take a close look at the smashed head, let's look at this really fantastic Glenn face sculpt and paint here. I think this is great. I think this beats the first release of Comic Glenn in the riot gear by a long shot. A little bit of paint messed up on his ear, but these are small figures, and at a distance you don't see that at all. And if you want to see the back of the head with some decent sculpt there in the hair and the baseball hat, there you go. Now pop his other head on, and surprisingly enough, he does look like a monster, and it seems to hide some of that ugliness in his neck. Now I really like that. It does hide it a great deal, but if you need to turn it for any reason, you will get that ugliness back. Now looking up close is when this really gets impressive, because look at that detail on his lower jaw. That is amazing. And his eyeball is just popping out there in such gory detail. What's really cool, I really wish I opened the other set. I have two colored blood splatter versions of this, and the second one that's in box for my Negan shrine has a really white eyeball, so the gore factor just shoots through the roof when they get that paint right on the eyeball. So this is probably just on my figure. I'm sure a couple out there have different paint apps, but he looks like a monster. It is gory and awesome, and this is one of my favorite parts. How glossy it is, how smashed in it is. It feels like you need to be delicate with his head because there's just broken bones and bloody matted down hair. It looks fantastic, and I know it's it's Glenn's death scene figure, but the work they do on this is awesome. As a horror fan, I love this. Visually, I absolutely love this. The detail is on point. I truly love what they do with the comic series for McFarlane Toys. I feel like they're making all the right choices in what to release and even what to re-release. Now, the axe I didn't show you before, but if you want to take a close-up look at the axe, obviously the blood splatter version has blood on the axe, and down through the handle is just brown. But still, it's a really cool looking axe, and he holds it nicely. Real quick, if you want to display Glenn and Negan with Negan holding Glenn's smashed head, because the other Glenn head looks so awesome, if you want to display them both, you can display Glenn in one piece and then Negan holding the smashed head of Glenn. It actually turns out really epic. That is how I have it displayed. And now let's get right to Negan. He comes with Lucille, and she is awesome as always. Very good detail in there, really fine detail with that barbed wire. Now she is very pliable. You can just bend the hell out of her, and that becomes a problem. Putting it in his hand, you got to be careful not to really bend her up. Now if you get a Lucille in package that's a little bent up, you might want to run some warm water on it and get it in the right shape, straighten it out a bit, and then run it under cold water, and that'll do the trick. Now Negan, just like the previous release, has his iconic shit-eating grin, and he still remains one of the finest figures in the 5-inch line that they have ever made at McFarlane Toys in both the TV and the comic book version of figures. He remains one of my favorite after all these years. I think he's been out for 3 years now, and he remains at the top of the list. Now, the detail in his leather jacket, the size, everything. He is an epic figure. There's nothing more I could say about this Negan, but it's damn near a perfect figure. Now, he doesn't have that articulation that the new figures have, but that's absolutely fine. Now, this knife comes out. I'll show you a picture of the knife. It's got a little blood on it. Looks pretty awesome. It goes in all the way, but it is hanging out just a hair, if you can tell there. Now, right down from the face to the pants to the detail, again, the waves in the clothing, it's fantastic with McFarlane Toys, what they did here with the sculpt. Even the paint app on Negan. This Negan and the old ones are amazing. I got a little drop by his eye, and that's it. Out of like 5 or 6 Negans I have, that's the only mess up. Now, his belt buckles down here, I love what they did. Little fine detail. Now, his articulation, too, is fantastic at the ankles. He has a lot of rocking articulation with the ankle that is very beneficial to standing him up. He almost never falls down. Now, he does swivel at the knee, and as you can see, he also bends at the knee, and it's got that gear in there, so his body weight does not cripple this figure. You need to actually force it to bend slightly, and that's perfect for displaying him and not having him fall all over the place. I'll back it up a little, and you can see this articulation here is the old articulation, so he doesn't go out very wide, and he doesn't kick forward and back good at all, but that is fine. Again, I don't mind that because he pretty much just stands here looking epic on my shelf, and that is about it. Now, his arms, they do articulate pretty good. As you can see, he's like, bring it on. So you could do some comic book panels brought to life with this articulation, absolutely. His arms raise about that high. Let me lower the camera somewhat. Arms about that high. He does spin all the way around with that arm. Bends in the elbow, swivels at the wrist, and what's really important, especially for this hand, he has a little hinge. Whoops, what am I doing? He has a little hinge that's, let me get close so you can see. There is a little hinge in his elbow, if you can find it. It's covered up with, there it is. It's covered up with the jacket, so you gotta find it, but once you do, that's very useful to get him in these positions with the bat. So you find that hinge, you try to move it around, get it into place, and it'll take a little bit, but once you do, it's perfect. Now his other arm, I love how it has a different sculpt with an open hand. Really nice detail in the open hand. The glove also. Let's see if we can get that zooming in. The focus. Yeah. And it also has that hinge. And you need to find it, but once you do, you can kind of work it and manipulate it around this jacket. But it looks fantastic. And then to his face, his awesome, awesome face. Perfect sculpt for this Negan, really bringing this character straight out of the comic. He looks down a little, up a tiny bit, barely down and up. Look at, and then side to side, he's really good at that. And there's nothing in the way of his neck. He has one of the best figures still all around, head to toe. I mean, Negan is champ. And look at the weathering too. His jacket still, the red with the black, the blood splatter, he's fantastic. And if you need a glance at the black and white one, I don't see a reason to open it up, but you can see how it's pretty clean, and I know this might seem a little plain to some collectors, but I love it. I love having a bloody black and white version of Negan. I love having a clean black and white version of Negan, and I love having a color version of Negan and a color bloody version of Negan. I hope I said that all right. Now, I really hope they will restock this on their online shop, because I have to say this is probably one of the best sets. It's difficult to get two amazing figures in one pack. A lot of times they will take a weaker figure and put it with a stronger figure to help it sell. But I just have to say, this does not feel like the case here. I think they did a great job re-releasing this Negan, giving other fans an opportunity to get it, and I truly hope they restock this figure set so other fans actually get a chance to get it at a decent price. As far as the Glenn, I think this is the superior comic version of Glenn that has ever gotten a release so far. It blows the previous release out of the water, and I love the work they did right from the head to the baseball cap down to the toes with the two color shoes and the articulation being able to hold the axe. I have to say this set is a win-win, and if you have the opportunity to get this for the suggested $50 retail price, jump all over it. If you have to pay $60 or $70, I have to give this a high recommend. Get it in your collection before the price skyrockets like the single-carded Negan. Thanks for coming by the review room. Don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out.
Subscribe now.